What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Keepin It Cleveland podcast, a community impact podcast where I sit down with the leaders driving meaningful change in our city and uncover the human stories behind their work, who they are, why they do it, and the impact they're making in Cleveland. Today, I am happy that I am joined by John Litten, President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Thank you, John, for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Before we dive into anything, I want to bring up something that I saw, an article I read on Channel 5. Recently, I think it was about a couple months ago, you were labeled the hometown hero. You were labeled the hometown hero of Cleveland.
Yeah.
You explained it. I think you said Thunderbolt or Thundershocked or something like that is the way you expressed how that moment felt. You got a chance to ride in a jet, right?
Yes. F-16.
What the heck was that experience like? You know, what do I got to do to be called a hometown hero?
You know what? I don't know because I'm not even sure what I did to earn it, to be honest with you. But it was a top 5 experience in my life.
I'm sure.
In fact, I probably right behind my kids being born. You've never gone that fast. I would have put it on a bucket list if I ever thought it was possible. But the Thunderbirds, every town they go to, they choose a hometown hero, and they work with the local air show to do that. And I was lucky enough to be picked. I don't know that I'm the hometown hero so much as I'm the spokesperson. For 70 some staff and thousands of volunteers.
Yeah.
Really being the heroes. I get to talk about it. They do the real work.
What was the experience like on the jet flying through the air? Did they do any tricks or anything? How was that?
Yeah. So we went on the practice day, the Friday of the air show.
Okay.
And we followed the other 7 Thunderbirds up there. They started doing their practice run. We went up a little higher and did some things.
Yeah.
And I got to
and you were in it the whole time.
Whole time. I got to take the controls a little bit.
Yeah.
And did a 360 myself.
Really?
Yes. And the 2 things everybody asked me, and the answer is no, is I did not puke and I did not pass out.
That was coming next. Were you scared, though? Were you scared prior?
Oh, yeah. I'd say I was scared, but it's just natural when you're going 500-600 miles an hour.
Did it feel slow even though you was going fast?
It felt slower than you would think.
Okay.
When you're at the air show or something, or if you're in Cleveland during the air show, you hear that loud noise. You don't hear any of that because you're wearing, you're wearing a helmet with earphones and all that noise is behind you. So you're not hearing any of it. It's weirdly quiet. That I would say.
What's up, guys? Listen, this episode of Keepin It Cleveland is sponsored by Color Beyond. So if you're a small business owner or a nonprofit organization that knows you need video, but you're not sure where to start, what to create, or how to show up consistently, that lack of clarity is costing you clients, support, and real opportunities. Color Beyonds help you create strategic video content with a clear plan so you can show up consistently, build trust, and make sure your content is actually working for you. So if this is something you're interested in and you're ready to stop guessing and start showing up with clarity, visit my website, colorbeyond.com. Thank you for watching. Now let's get back to the episode. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. You're the president and CEO?
Yeah.
President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Greater Cleveland.
Correct.
Right. How did you get here? What was your story leading up to, I guess, before we dive into the community impact and what Habitat is?
Well, I've been blessed with like multiple dream jobs, I would say. I've only worked in the nonprofit space in my career with a little bit of politics. I'll get into that, but I learned a lot at summer camp. The summer camp that I worked at in college hired me right out of school and for an assistant director type role. And then by age 25, I was the director there. And, by age 30 something, I was the executive director of the St. Vincent de Paul Society, a different charity that does emergency assistance work.
So you was always taught to some type of community impact.
Yeah. And then from there to West Side Catholic Center, also working with homeless individuals, food, clothing, shelter, advocacy work, workforce development. And then this Habitat role came around. So I've just been able to move from impactful thing to impactful thing. And I hope that's somewhat driven by results, but at the same time, it's wonderful and gratifying to work for places that you believe in. You know, people talk about having to ask people for money and fundraise and all this sort of stuff. When you work for a cause that is as noble as some of the places I've been able to work, including Habitat, especially Habitat, it sells itself. You know, I'm not selling myself. I'm selling this cause that it impacts and changes the lives of dozens of families every year.
What was it that drew you to community work? Was it, I mean, I get the first time, maybe it just fell in my lap, but then the second time, the third time, like, what was it about community?
I've strived to always do things I loved. I was actually an art major, and I wanted to be a graphic designer, but this role at this camp that I'd fallen in love with growing up came about, and you really catch the bug of just doing what you love. And being around change. You sleep really well at night too when you know you're working for a pure cause. You know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I say basically every day, and I say it unprompted, that I have the best job in Cleveland, and I truly believe that. And I try to live that every single day.
Let's talk a little bit about your job. I would say I've heard of Habitat for Humanity. All I know about Habitat for Humanity is that you guys build houses. Can you explain what is Habitat for Humanity?
You know what? I appreciate that much, because everywhere I've worked, you have to explain yourself. You always have your elevator pitch, right? And if you have to spend part of your elevator pitch explaining that you build houses, that takes up time. But you come in here already knowing that about us. It means a lot to me, you know, because from there I can just talk about the families, the people we get to serve.
I want to dive into that for sure.
And the biggest misconception, I'll say, is that we give our houses away. You know? And by the way, we build houses, but we also rehab houses. So it's a little bit of both. Some of the work with Oakmont that I know you work with is on rehabs, houses we're fixing up. All of these houses, though, go into our inventory of houses for the families that we're preparing to become homeowners. And by the way, we do not give these houses away.
They do not give the houses away.
We do not. It is actually a 0% interest mortgage that the family enters into. And that mortgage is at the appraised value of that home. So after we've fixed it up and everything, we get it appraised. So we know what the value is in that neighborhood for that home. And that's what we sell it at. Even if it costs us more to build it, we sell it for whatever the appraised value is. I like talking about that because, you know, sometimes people think charitable housing somehow lowers the value of a neighborhood. When in reality, we're selling that house for exactly what it's worth. We're meeting the market right where it is. And then because it's a nice new home, newly rehabbed home, sometimes
we can raise
the market. And I'm so proud. We focus heavily in the Buckeye Woodhill neighborhood of Cleveland in particular. It's a place where we've built over 40 homes. We've rehabbed over 25 homes, made major repairs on another 40 or 50 homes. And it's through all that collectively that you see crime rates go down. You see appraisal values go up. We're also doing this work alongside other amazing nonprofit organizations. So it's not just Habitat being the hero. Far from it. You know, it's all these different things. So then we're building community rather than just building a house. You know, and I love it. In the past year and a half, 2 years, we've been able to add a critical home repair program too, where we're fixing up houses for existing residents. So now, you know, when we're building on a house, we're a pain in the neck because you know, these existing residents, they don't like trucks driving up and down the whole time. Us open up the street, having to close it off. You know, dust kicked up, things like that, and we create some challenges. So I love that we can go back to those neighborhoods, knock on every door, and say, what major repairs do you need? You know, and it's roofs, siding, windows, front porches that might be collapsing, things like that. A lot of it's keeping seniors in their homes, you know. So you're building intergenerational housing too, because we're bringing new families into those new homes, but also helping a senior that's been in that neighborhood for perhaps their whole life to stay there. You know.
What about this type of work like matter to you personally?
Well, when you're in the nonprofit world or charity world or whatever you want to call it, your whole career, and for me it's almost 25 years now. You know, burnout's common. You know, the challenge of feeling like you don't know if you're making a difference or not is common. Even when it's good work and you know you're helping people, it can sometimes feel like, wow, this is hard. This is a heavy burden. And I've seen that throughout my career. But with Habitat, when you're helping someone enter into a home that's going to make them a homeowner, help them build wealth, and in essence change their lives. I can't find more impactful than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm drawn to the fact that it's as impactful as I've been able to find work to be doing. You know, if you've ever seen the big reveals on TV and, you know, things like that, and people seeing their home for the first time, we do that 25 sometimes a year, and it never gets old. You know, if you haven't lived until you've had a 7-year-old boy pull you into where it's going to be his first bedroom he's ever had of his own, you know, and telling you how he's going to decorate it and everything like that.
Feels good.
Oh man.
What qualifies a person to be able to receive a new build, receive renovations for their current home?
Sure. They have to be within certain income guidelines that are really national guidelines throughout Habitat. But they're pretty broad. They have to be between 30 and 80% of area median income, which for a family of 4 ends up being that they make something in like 30,000 to 70-some thousand a year. So within that range, then they qualify. They also have to, you know, be willing to do all of our programs that we do to prepare them for home ownership, of course. Generally speaking, they can't get a loan from a bank, so they come to us. You know, if someone can get a loan through a bank, we might steer them towards that instead of our program. All told, over 2,000 families apply a year on our website. And that gets whittled down to about 50 that get approved fully into the program. Even from there, there's some attrition because it can be challenging. But all through it, hopefully, and we're really successful at it, we're preparing them well to be homeowners. You know, people call it second chance housing, which I think is kind of BS, to be honest with you. Yeah, for sure. It's really first chance housing. You know, it especially when you talk about redlining and the things that have happened in Cleveland and other major cities throughout the country. You know, we are surgically going into places where people were not allowed to get mortgages. We're not able to get mortgages. And letting them become owners to the tune of over $3 million of home equity built by our families in Buckeye alone, just in a 5-block area of Cleveland alone. You know, so you're talking about hyper-focusing, but you're also talking about building wealth. And about a dozen times a year, a family will pay off their home. Or they'll in full, or they'll sell it, make a killing, and then move to something bigger and better, or move away to be near their grandkids, or whatever the case may be. That's the American dream, you know. This stuff isn't meant to have a ceiling,
right?
You know, and it's helping the missing middle in a way. People who, if they make too much, might be at risk of losing benefits, and helping them move out of that entirely. And really become, you know, their best selves. And that's why I call it first chance housing, because there's just so many people who have never had the opportunity. You know, generational poverty is a real thing. Yeah.
Why do you think that people have that misconception? Do they feel like, oh, this is a handout? Like, what is it that you think caused that misconception?
Well, when they say second chance, it presumes a mistake was made that you need another chance for. You know, your mistake can't be being born in a certain zip code. That's just wrong, right? That's humanly made. We have parts of Cleveland where the life expectancy is like 20 years difference from one zip code to another within the same county, you know, within miles of some places. And it's inherently wrong. I mean, Cleveland's greatest mistake is redlining. If you overlapped the map of low life expectancy, dropout rates, you know, incarceration rates, low birth rates. If you aligned them all, they all line up with where the redlining occurred.
Wow.
That's not a coincidence.
Right.
You know, it's because people weren't able to realize wealth and build up the next generation after them, you know? Pure and simple. And so the ability to go rather surgically into those neighborhoods and allow for home ownership to occur in a way that's accessible to people who are working very hard. You know, again, it's not a handout. They all have jobs. They have incomes. They're paying their mortgages every month. We're about 95% successful with people staying in their mortgages too, which is huge.
That's high.
I put it up against any bank. Right? These people are working hard once they get their homes and not just leading up to it. You know? It's a long-term solution.
Can we talk a little bit about sustainability and how building these homes in these specific neighborhoods are making an impact as far as like community longevity as far as these houses being there. Like you said, that they get to have the house, they get to sell the house if they they move on. Like, what impact have you saw on complete neighborhoods when Habitat
Sure.
comes?
So Buckeye's my best example because we've been there a little while, but we've really only been there 5 years doing new builds and 7 or 8 years doing work overall. So we're just starting to see the fruits of our labor. But I can tell in very obvious ways through data on maps that crime rates have gone down. It is a safer neighborhood. Not perfect. We've had issues even this year, and we will help lead the charge on honoring what's happened and moving on from it, helping the community move on because we're not going anywhere. But we're also seeing home values increase. A house that appraised for $130,000 5 years ago appraises for almost $170 now.
Oh yeah,
in those streets. That's a big deal. You don't want to make homeowners in a place where their house won't appreciate in value,
right?
Because that's when things go underwater. This is really sustainable for the long term. And CSU helped us with some research that showed that a Habitat home appraises faster than a home would traditionally in any neighborhood. So we know that not only are we making a difference, but we're a special kind of a difference compared with any other.
Now, Habitat is nationwide, right?
Correct. It's worldwide.
It's worldwide. Okay. So it's a global thing. What would you say the mission is of, I don't know if the mission is different worldwide or is the mission from just greater Cleveland? What is the mission?
Well, generally speaking, our mission, rooted in faith, is to provide a decent place to live for as many people as possible. And that could be through building homes. It could be through rehabbing homes. It could be through making major repairs so people can stay in their homes. Worldwide, it takes many, many different forms.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in over 70 countries and, there's almost 1,200 affiliates in the United States alone, it's different every city to city, rural, urban, everything in between.
Right.
Sometimes it might be something relatively small in Zambia where we partner, but it's more than they've ever had,
Right.
And we're helping build a school there too. And so there's also this network that we're a partner in where we both can help elsewhere where there's a need. And we do that through what we call tithing. We send funds to the
I'm familiar with tithing
in Zambia, and that. But it's also a network that I can learn from, that we learn from all the time. I mean, I had a meeting this morning where we were talking about what 2 different affiliates, one in Florida and one in Indiana, are doing differently than us, and where we could learn from them. So there's it's nice when I have hundreds of counterparts who have my job in other parts of the country, then I can say, how'd you guys do this?
Yep.
And we could be a thought leader too. We can share what we've done. We've done some interesting, innovative things, but we have a lot to learn as well. And there's a huge network to learn from.
Yeah. What would you say is the deeper problem that Habitat is solving? Now, I know you're building houses and you're renovating houses, but something like you said with crime rates, like what is the deeper problem that you guys are solving?
Yeah, I've probably already said it. It's making up for past evils, when I talk about redlining and things like that. But it's really helping undo generational poverty. That's why I call it a first chance. You haven't had a chance when your parents were poor and your grandparents were poor, when opportunity was just not an option. I see us as helping undo that, redesign the red line in a way.
I think we did mention it a little bit, but what would you say your why is behind your work?
Every presentation I give, whether it is to our board or to a funder, to our staff, to volunteers, our first slide is always our why. And our why for us is because of this historic redlining that occurred in Cleveland that we have to undo generational poverty and help people realize, it is because Cleveland needs us, because there are approximately 25,000 empty lots in the city of Cleveland. 18,000 or so are held by the city land bank alone. So you're talking about an open canvas upon which we can do this work. So, finding land will not be our problem for a long time. So we have a wonderful opportunity. That's part of our why. We're a city that was, is structured to be the size of LA, but everybody left. So we have all this open property where we can really do a lot of work and bring new homeowners in. Part of our why is that there's no one else that provides home ownership on day one the way that Habitat does. And then part of it, I've alluded to it, is our Buckeye model, the fact that we have a proven strategy that works through collaboration and intense focus to make our neighborhood safer and to help people realize wealth and be part of a community.
How do you know when you technically you're help building a community by building homes, and how do you know, is it a moment where it's like, okay, we're done with this community, let's move to the next community, or how do you determine?
Well, in a way, we're a lost leader, and what I mean by that is, we're housing in a different way, and I realize that. Mm-hmm. And if those appraisal values get higher to where us building a home and selling it at the appraised value is going to be hard for a family to afford or something like that,
okay,
we might move on to another neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's one example. But in a way, like, you could argue that in Buckeye, despite it being a success story of mine, we're still decades away from really turning the corner. Mm-hmm. There's some neighborhoods of Cleveland that have done very well. Using like Detroit Shoreway as an example, people call it the 40-year overnight success. Where all of a sudden it seemed like a good place to live, but there was 30, 40 years of work that went into that and helping a neighborhood come back. And I'd like to think that Buckeye is, 25 to 50% of the way there, but it's not there. My favorite pastor in the world is Father Jim O'Donnell, and he was once asked how to affect change, and the whole room got quiet. Like, okay, what's this guy going to say? Because I'm going to write it down. And I'm going to go do it tomorrow, right? And his answer was sustained presence over time, and that's something that takes generations.
Yeah,
to build trust and be consistent.
Yep.
If people don't have a family network like I was blessed to grow up with to turn to when things aren't great, we have to be that for them, and it's how we become that for them and build enough trust that they'll ask the questions, Do you
have like a story that stands out to you, whether it's on a whole community, a story from a family that you can share where you seen, we built this house and you was able to see maybe that family, because of that house, I don't know, went farther?
One is Adriana. She basically adopted a couple of nieces and ended up getting a Habitat home. To see her, watch her career unfold, and to where she's now in government advocacy herself. We even brought her to D.C. with us when we went to lobby Capitol Hill this year for her to tell her story, because hearing it from her,
of course,
it's way better than hearing it from me.
Yeah, real voices.
And plus, she's got an amazing job. She's extremely successful, very well spoken, and is just able to really tell her story in a way that I think drives home the impact of Habitat. And we've got tons of other stories. I mean, I'll use the example of a senior. We started this critical home repair program. We're 3 months in. We don't know how we're going to do this, how it's going to make a difference, things like that. And, you get your first senior calling and her furnace went out, and it's, probably 2 years ago right now, and you're helping a senior stay in their home and get their heat back on before Christmas. It's that kind of thing too.
What kind of Cleveland are you working to build? We talked a lot about what was the past, looking toward the future. What's kind of Cleveland are you looking to build?
Well, I grew up in Cleveland, a little bit in Lakewood, but mostly west side of Cleveland, West Park. And West Park was a neighborhood of firefighters and police officers, some judges. There were judges down the street from me growing up, things like that. Cleveland is known for being one of the more segregated cities in our country. And to the extent we can undo that in a way that is sustainable and thoughtful, that's the Cleveland I want to live in. I go as close as Akron, and I see a diversity that we don't necessarily have in Cleveland. And I don't mean that we lack for diversity in Cleveland. I mean the commingling doesn't happen the way it does in, say, Akron or someplace else. And part of that is incumbent on me to understand privilege and how I have grown up. But it's also been realizing I can talk a good game on your podcast, at work, and things like that. But if I don't take it back home to the West Park neighborhood or wherever and live that there, then it's for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that means being a little brave and maybe saying things that you would have kept quiet about before and things like that. I'm sure that's not the depth you expected me to go in.
That's
but
good.
I really feel like that's, you know, that's why the redlining happened, right? And some of this is so generational from a racism standpoint, frankly, that I mean, we ought to strive to build a more homogeneous or diverse, I don't know what the right word is, Cleveland, and do it in a way that is sustainable. You know, they tried it with busing kids to different schools and things like that, and all it did was really decimate our schools and cause a lot of people to move.
Yeah.
So what's the way to do that is sustainable and thoughtful?
We just actually did a documentary about busing, and that was actually something new to me because the whole documentary was called Relay Cleveland. It was all about busing, and so that was a whole experience. I didn't know that it happened and the purpose of it and everything like that. You mentioned it multiple times, but like, of course, we know that it's wrong. But what is it like when you think of the past that like motivates you to continue to do the work that you're doing?
Well, you know, familiarity breeds understanding. If my next door neighbor is black, I'm going to be a lot more understanding because we're neighbors and we talk all the time, you know. That's going to change the way I interact with a whole population of people when I go about my day. If there was some bias there to begin with, you know, I'm not imposing bias on someone. You know, I grew up with some that I've had to work to undo and all that kind of thing. And it's being honest with ourselves about that. But I'm a firm believer in having that familiarity to build that understanding. And if we are fleeing from people that are different from us or moving away from them, that's counterproductive.
What gives you hope for our city today?
Well, I'm biased, but I'd say the work of Habitat, but also a lot of our partners in this work that give me lots of hope. I think there's a lot of really thoughtful conversations around how we sustainably and equitably build up Cleveland that are happening now. I do have a lot of faith in our mayor, Justin Bibb. He is tackling challenges that have been left unchallenged at times in ways that aren't sexy and exciting all the time. You know, part of that's how the systems at the city work and things like that. We have to interact on a number of levels with that, from city council and the mayor over to permitting and things like that on a very, very regular basis. Well, it gives me faith knowing that the mayor, any city council person, countless other nonprofits doing similar work are a phone call, a text, or an email away and are pretty collaborative. I can be a broken record sometimes. But using Buckeye as an example, once again, you know, it's Habitat doing work, but it is CHN doing housing work on the rental to own side. It's CMHA building more housing in a way that's sustainable, but that's good, solid housing for people. It is Western Reserve Land Conservancy coming in, and they plant a tree on every Habitat house. They do pocket parks in the neighborhoods where we work. Some of those empty lots get converted into little parks, which is really nice. Even like cut throughs between streets. I don't know where you.
I've seen some of those.
I used to cut through people's yards to get from one street to another when I was growing up, and it's nice to actually create a cut through between, so that people don't have to trespass or anything like that. And also, you know, local pastors, Reverend Ernest Fields at Calvary in Buckeye there. He's really adjacent to it, but has spearheaded a lot of our work. I don't know that we'd be as successful as we are without him adopting us and welcoming us into the neighborhood and then being a catalyst for us to be doing our work. He helps foster, hopefully with us, you know, block captains on streets and things like that too, you know, looking after safety, but also entertainment and things like that, you know. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple other organizations, the Cuyahoga County Land Bank, that is instrumental in us acquiring land, helping fund our projects, you know, things like that, and for those other organizations. And the St. Luke Foundation, you know, there used to be old St. Luke Hospital right there. It's no longer, but through that hospital's closure, formed this foundation that now gives very generously back to the neighborhood to help fund our work, but the work of others. Also hosts gatherings for the community, things like that. So all these different things, all working together, really for a common goal, has been beautiful to watch.
I know you talked about people's misconceptions of Habitat for Humanity. What would you say for specifically Habitat for Humanity of Greater Cleveland under your leadership is one of those things that you just want people, something that you just want people to know and understand?
I need people to know we don't give our houses away, that this is something that the families we work with work extremely hard, not just to get the home, but to sustain home ownership over time. They have to make that monthly mortgage payment for 15 to 30 years, that's daunting for any of us, right? And for them too. And they are working so hard. I probably shouldn't tell a story, but it was a story of a house that we had done, and a local media outlet published a story that Habitat gifts home to family. And then you can just imagine what the online comments were like from there. Ultimately, we asked them to, and they took the article down because of the incorrectness of it. But it underscores the importance of people understanding the fact that these families are working so hard. I should add, their down payment on a home is service. They don't have to give a financial down payment. Their down payment is 200 to 300 hours of service. And that could be in our restores, which I haven't talked about yet. It can be in our workshops that we provide to prepare them to become homeowners. Everything from fixing drywall and using power tools to how to budget and financial literacy and things like that. And it's also oftentimes those hours are on the home that they're going to live in. So talk about feeling a part of something. When you painted the door yourself, or you helped in this closet,
that ownership,
that this or that, really helps. And by the way, when they get to 50 hours, they're not done yet, but that's when they can select the home that they're going to live in. So from a dignity standpoint, it's not.
They work for it
Here's
every
your
step
house.
of the way.
We picked this one for you. Here's all the different. It's like a realtor would treat it. Here's a dozen or so properties that we are working on. Some are rehabs, some are modular homes, some are new construction homes that we're working on. And take your pick based on the floor plan, things like that. When they get in that early, they can pick the flooring. They can choose the countertops, the cabinets, what color the siding is on the house. Really make it their own. So those are all misconceptions I think that occur with us sometimes that I will be a broken record out explaining wherever people will ask. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, that's good. Once a person applies, what do you guys do to prepare them to move in a house? And is there something that you do afterwards to make sure that they can afford and keep the house?
That is a good segue for me. Yes, we do the workshops that I mentioned, on all those different things, helping people to be prepared to be homeowners. Because if you've been renting your whole life, there is some reliance on a landlord all the times to take care of things for you. I'll add, in many cases, for our families, they're coming from a situation where the landlords probably weren't doing the upkeep they ought to have been doing. But preparing to actually be responsible to do that yourself is real, and I think we do a decent job working with partners sometimes to prepare people that way. And then once they're in the program, I will say that 5% where people don't make it on their mortgages, we did some deep dive into that, and we found that if they failed in their mortgage, it was oftentimes either a life event thing that we couldn't control for. I can't prevent you from losing 5%
your job. Is low. Everything is not going to be 100% successful.
Right, but you want to tackle that.
Of course.
But the rest of it, it tends to be in the first year or two of their mortgage where there would be a challenge. And so we thought, okay, well,
probably getting reacclimated or accustomed to this new change in their life.
Right. And so we now provide we call it our Homeownership Success Program. The first mortgage we closed in January of this year, 2025, we enrolled them in this program that continues some of that workshop type of thing on a monthly basis throughout their first couple years in their mortgage. And we're finding that we haven't had a single issue with any of those mortgage holders. There's 23 or 24 families enrolled to that program now. And so we're seeing incredible success with them sustaining homeownership because we're not leaving them out to dry and providing a little bit extra support should they need it from there. So we're seeing families continue their success that way.
So they're working already. It sounds like they're getting a skill. right? Because you guys, they're doing those workshops and things like that. 300 hours is a lot of hours. So they're already working. Then they're working a little bit more to develop a skill before they even move into the house. And then you guys are providing them with resources too to make sure that they can.
And if you're 16 or up in the household, you can contribute hours. You can do so. Talk about a teenager in a family that helped
build their own house,
get their home.
Yeah,
they were a part of that too.
Yeah,
it wasn't
they were part
just,
of the process.
Mom or dad having to do it all on their own. It was the whole family in a sense helping.
That's great. What is the challenge or the effect of people having the misconceptions they have about Habitat for Humanity or a false narrative? Does that affect the organization in a negative way at all? Or it's just noise, but it's just annoying noise?
That's a really good way of putting it. I'd say it's more noise.
Yeah.
And I joked earlier about, I get to do the talking and everybody else does all the real work. But part of the talking that I have to continue to preach is
advocacy
about these
for
misconceptions and just helping educate people. I spoke to a Rotary Club, 3-4 weeks ago, and a gentleman raised his hand and just said, "How did I not know that Habitat operated this way? I wish I would have known all along." And so it's just pounding the pavement and telling our story, and in many places as people will listen, including right here.
So a couple of things that I heard you mention was Restore and then your modular homes. Can you talk a little bit about what Restore is?
Sure.
Yeah.
Restore is a way that we take in and even go pick up donated goods. It could be furniture, construction supplies, household items, basically anything you'd want in your house besides the clothes, we would take, and we actually sell it in any of 3 different stores that we have on the near west side of Cleveland, in North Randall, and then out in Amherst in Lorain County. We cover Cuyahoga and Lorain County, by the way. And those are an opportunity for us to raise gross $2.8 million a year from the sale of goods there. Again, the profits of that gets poured right back into our mission so that we can build more homes. I kid about it sometimes, but those stores build 4 or 5 homes a year all on their own. Through the funding that they provide us.
Yeah,
and
it's good.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and not to mention that it keeps over 3 million pounds of stuff out of landfills per year. And there's a need in Cleveland too for people to pick up furniture so it doesn't get thrown away. There's a few options, but we're a phone call away. We're usually about 2 weeks out on pickups. We'll come to you. We'll get your couch, or if God forbid, grandma passes away or something like that. We benefit from that sort of thing and help grandma's things live on.
I was about to say, so it's in the
families.
name. You take somebody's old furniture, you restore it, and do you sell it or you give it out? Yeah.
It's mostly, and sometimes we don't have to restore much.
Okay.
A lot of it comes perfectly fine, but we will fix things up sometimes too, and it all goes in the stores. I shouldn't say all. Some of it might get used on construction or something like that as well. So that sometimes is the case. But we have tools. We have like literally anything you need for your house is in our restores, and they're a wonderful way to give back that I didn't mention. Actually, is through donating goods to that.
Now this sounds familiar. Is this like? Do you guys have a Home Depot style store where all this stuff is stored?
Yes.
I don't know where I saw that at, but
our main store on the near west side of Cleveland, it's also where our headquarters is.
Okay.
It's like less than a mile from a Home Depot, actually.
Okay.
So I find that a lot of contractors will come see if we have it first. Because
That's
we're
cool.
cheaper. And then they'll go to Home Depot if they have to, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a really nice way to, a lot of contractors come through, a lot of builders. But if you're just doing a little project at home too, sometimes it's nice to stop there for a see. That, if you like to incorporate older items into your home too, it's just a nice way to do that. But you might find a marble countertop, or I walked through a few weeks ago and there was a pulpit a church had donated. There's a giant train table set with the hills, and
you can find all types of stuff.
It's so random. It's so fun. It's so funny. And it's interesting. And then on modular homes, we've grown. We were, say we were doing 15 or 20 homes a year 5 years ago, and we're pushing 30 homes a year now.
Okay.
And some generosity from Cleveland City Council and the mayor and the state house as well, a little bit from the county too, of ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, one-time funding through the Biden administration that was to spark things like what we're doing.
Okay.
And we had to spend a lot of funding quickly, and we had to deliver on what we said we would do in growing. And a way for us to do that was to start doing modular housing as well, because it could get built in a facility quicker while we're digging the foundation. So things that used to have to wait for one another could be happening simultaneously. The house gets brought in and set. And I would add, because I get this question a lot, yes, it is just as good a quality, if not better, than a new construction home built on site. I challenge you, is the house that is being built indoors in a facility right now on this snowy day in Cleveland going to be, done as well as the one that's being built out in these elements right now?
That makes sense when you think of it that way.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Not to mention that a house that could be rolled 150 miles and then lifted with a crane and set into place would have to be pretty strong. And by the way,
should be solid.
Yeah, when they're setting it, the drywall's already done, the crown molding's in, the cabinets are in. So that's all stuff that you'd worry but they do it in a way that is really, really solid.
Is it a quota? Is it like not like a quota where if we don't hit this, is where we're doomed, but like an internal thing where it's like we want to get to a certain number every year?
Well, we know because of our why that the need is great.
Right.
And the opportunity is great. There's a lot of people who need our service. So that is our why. It's not ego driven, like, we need to hit this. There will be times when a funder might say, how many are you going to build? We'll say this. Okay, we'll give you this much money. Yeah. Well, we got to deliver. And so we do seek to deliver on the things we promise to any foundation or government entity. And largely we have, I'm thankful to say.
Yeah. How does this work affect you personally? Meaning like spiritually, emotionally, mentally, how does this work affect you?
I may have said it before, but it always has. And whatever work I've been doing, you sleep pretty well at night, knowing your cause, your why, your personal why is one that is pure. I am not a perfect human being by any stretch of the imagination. I have a lot to work on, and will continue to try to do so. But I know that what my calling is every day is a really, really good thing. And it helps you to sleep at night. It helps you to know, even when things are hard or difficult, that it's for this cause that you believe in and the people all around you believe
that's
in.
Good.
It's not like we're pulling and pushing against each other about why we're doing this. We get that part. There's other challenges that come with it because people are people. I'm imperfect. They are too. And we got to figure all that out. But not everything's black and white. You have to embrace the gray sometimes. And I like to think I do that well on a daily basis. But I would just say it's helped me to know why I'm put on this earth. That is not a question I have.
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this part of the show is a chance for you. We talked about partnerships and things like that, relationships and acquaintances and the importance of having those things. What is a person, leader, organization that is out there that is creating an impact that you feel like should be highlighted, and why?
This is extremely difficult, even though I knew it was coming.
And it doesn't have to look like on a scale of what Habitat is doing.
Yeah, I get that. God, there's so many.
Listen, nobody's going to be upset if you didn't mention them.
I know. I'm going to say 3 people.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm cheating.
Nope, it's fine.
One is Mayor Justin Bibb, because I think he really believes in what we're doing and is really seeking the internal and external change that our city needs, and not just one or the other. And I believe in him. One is Ricardo Leone at the Cuyahoga County Land Bank, and really his predecessor, Gus Frangos, because they have this thing that they've taken where a land bank is usually like they just hold land, sell it, and that's about it. And maybe they don't even sell it; they might give it away. But instead, they've spearheaded, a precursor to all of our work, which was almost 11,000 demolitions that needed to happen of blighted, ugly properties that were being, that were hurting neighborhoods. But then they also do their own development in addition to helping us with our development that helps fund land bank charities that gives funding back to organizations like Habitat and many, many others. And I also love them because they'll help big, bad Habitat, but they'll also help the nonprofit that just started, that's just trying to figure out one home for unwed mothers that, have a child and they don't know what to do, or whatever. There's many causes like that. So they don't just play with the big boys, they work with everyone. And then my third, whom I mentioned already, is Pastor Ernest Fields in Buckeye, a man who and his wife have really been a catalyst for that neighborhood. We wouldn't be successful there without him and his work. He also gets a potential congregant every time we build a house too. So I suppose that helps. But man, he is such an incredible leader in that neighborhood in ways that he will never tell you. You would never know. Yeah,
that's good. All right, last question. Everybody get asked this one. What does it mean to you to keep it Cleveland?
Well, we've talked a lot about housing, so I'll stay away from that. I think keeping it Cleveland is our ability to continue to root for these sports teams, even though it might not feel like the smartest decision to do so. I was at the Browns game last Sunday and asked myself multiple times why I was there, but it's, we are blessed.
That is keeping it Cleveland, though.
We are blessed as Cleveland to have 3 major sports teams. And I think it's important to support them. We're lucky to have. If Cleveland fell onto the planet today, the NFL, MLB, and NBA would not grant us 3 franchises. But we have them, and we ought to support them and keep them here. And they're imperfect and they make mistakes. I won't get into any of that. Both on and off the court or field. Yeah. But keeping it Cleveland is supporting them until the day we die.
That's great. What would you say, Habitat for Humanity being this huge organization, for people listening who care about you guys' mission, what's one meaningful way that they can support? What is something that they can do to support the cause? Is there a way?
I always stress for people to go to our website, but what I would say is encourage everyone to know that there is some way to contribute to this mission, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. Yeah. If people want to volunteer, Habitat is known for volunteerism, both in our restores and especially on construction. I call it the Jimmy Carter way. People remember Jimmy Carter for volunteering with Habitat. We give those opportunities on a very regular basis. There's other ways to use talents as well. All they have to do is ask, and you can oftentimes find some way to use their skill to help. We had some guys that they didn't necessarily want to be helping on houses, but they come to our restore. We gave them a wood shop, and they fix up furniture that gets donated and restore it to its original beauty, and then it gets sold in our stores, and that money comes back into the mission. So, there's ways we could find a way to use your talent, and then treasure, of course, where we're always relying on donations, financial donations to make this all happen. So time, talent, and treasure, we'll take it all.
That's good. Well, thanks, John, for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing your story, the impact that you and your team is making in our community. We thank you for it. My hopes is that when people hear this, that the narrative change and the misconceptions, right? And that people understand what it is that you guys are doing and want to be a part of that change, whether it's volunteer hours, referring people, whatever it may be, donating. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving us an avenue to share our story.
For sure. And before you go, if conversations like this matter to you, I ask that you subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who cares about Cleveland, because that's how we grow impact. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next time.